What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Commission Keeper podcast. My name is Cameron Hodge, your host, owner of Super Dad Tax LLC, but also a licensed agent with OPT in 2 different states, California and Florida. And welcome back on this show, obviously, where we talk about nothing but everything post commission earning, right? We're talking taxes, we're talking strategies, retirement, maybe even real estate investing as we get into it, since I've been involved in that since 2017. But this week, we're going to talk about being the CFO for your own company. Okay. Now, some of you may not know what a CFO is. Chief Financial Officer. Any large company and even small businesses at the $1 million to $15 million mark will hire part-time chief financial officers. But the reality is as entrepreneurs and owners of our companies, we are the ones that are running the books every single day. Right? Like, we are the ones that are having to manage the day-to-day finances, making sure everything's right, tracking the numbers, okay? And I'll tell you, when I got started in the industry, no one really told me, and I got lucky, right? Like, I was part of a top 5%, maybe even 3% team here in San Diego. They might even be the top 1% now. They've been doing pretty well this is years ago. But I worked as the inside sales agent, and it wasn't even just cold calling leads and stuff that I got good experience with. I got to see the first time, this is the second time I was getting involved in business. So even though I was working for them hourly while also working towards my real estate license, I got to work with a man named Dan. And Dan is still a really good friend to this day. He's a God-fearing man, and he has way more daughters. He is surrounded at his house. But when I first started working with him, it was the first time I actually ever got to see someone who really ran a business like a CFO in this industry. I mean, he had, in his 20s with other friends, created a company called Your Buds and sold it to JBL and had a good buyout, right? And it was pretty awesome to get to work with him and to see how his other business experience played into running a real estate team. At the time, they were running a national brokerage, who they have now joined with Real, but they were running their own independent national brokerage at the time, specifically for veterans, right? It was pretty cool. And getting to see how he runs his business is really what we're going to cover today, like how it works, how his mindset worked, how he tracked numbers, unlike agents that I've seen track before, because he wasn't even a licensed agent, right? He just had a lending license, what he does now. But his partner, who was the main broker of that firm, was like most agents. He couldn't track a dollar to save his life. Man, could he close deals, right? Like, he was a top deal closer, but could not track numbers to save his life. So we're going to get into it, okay? The first thing you want to do is you got to get a foundation, right? Like, where are your numbers being tracked? Look, Excel spreadsheets are great and all, but if you're starting to close deals and you're really running your business, it is not enough. Now, there's a lot of other options out there. There's a lot of other tools, but the reality is they're just not as good as QuickBooks. QuickBooks Online is my go-to. Now, if you don't have a business entity yet, you don't have an LLC, you're just rolling as, Joe Smo Realtor, then really all you need to do is you're going to end up paying like $15 to $20 a month for QuickBooks Online, okay? But to be honest with you, if you are closing enough deals, you probably should be paying, it should have an S Corp in place with an LLC or a regular corporation if you're in California, because they're weird. But you should have one of those in place, and you should have, it's not, it's not cheap in terms of like what you look at it, but you're paying like $30-$35 a month. Okay. And it seems obnoxious. I get it. I've tried so many other tools. The reality is that you just can't avoid it. It's just one of the most powerful bookkeeping tools out there for small businesses. So you can't avoid it. Now, with QuickBooks, there's going to be a lot of tools inside of it that you're not going to need, right? Most of you might not have payroll yet. If you do have payroll, it's an extra fee, right? That $35 doesn't cover the payroll tool. QuickBooks does have a payroll tool, right? Well, the parent company is into it, but QuickBooks doesn't, you got to pay extra for a bookkeeping tool, or you got to use Gusto, right? There's really the only two I'm looking at for most of you. But for the most part, you're just using it to get the reporting and the power of having everything being automatic, right? So I like to use the profit first method for my accounting. Most of us agents fall under this. And obviously you might have like 6 bank accounts, 5 bank accounts. It's because like the way that works is you're separating it into different buckets. Okay. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just have one business checking account. Maybe you have one business credit card. Okay. The cool thing about having tools like QuickBooks is it automatically will pull your transactions, right? So you're not having to download statements and stuff like that. Like, we're agents. Like you already got enough hats you're wearing. You don't need to be wearing anything else. So QuickBooks it's the must. Even for the agents out there that will reach out to my firm for us to do their bookkeeping for them. Like we're using QuickBooks. I'm sorry. Like there's a couple other options. There might be exceptions. But for the most part, we are using QuickBooks just because it does the powerful things that I need to do and that I'm going to cover in the rest of this episode. So, obviously, you got QuickBooks, but you also need a business bank account. Look, if you don't have, I don't even care if you don't have an LLC. Even, for example, fellow veterans out there, this could apply to any bank. Even though I have Navy Federal for my personal banking, I went to USAA just to get a checking account. The money for your business should be I don't care if you're a sole proprietor, right? You don't have a company, you're just working under your name, you're on a team. I don't care. Use a separate business checking account. My partner in our real estate team, right? Agents of the Armed Forces. When I first met him, sorry, Ed, I gotta throw you under the bus, dude. Like he had closed almost 30 deals, and he didn't even have a business bank account. It blew my mind. I was like, how do you not have a business bank account, right? Obviously, you can see, I'm running an accounting firm and I'm pretty much the CFO for our real estate team. I like numbers, but it blew me away. You have to separate your finances. You have to look, business credit cards, I'm in this industry, I don't think you need a business credit card per se. If you want to run the points and do cool things, go for it. I recommend everyone, most of you probably should just be straight cash only, but business checking account at a minimum. I like Relay. If you're following the profit first method, Relay does good. But if the state you're operating in, you get a lot of hard money checks, online only banks, kind of not a huge fan of those. So just keep that in mind. Chase Bank, they're everywhere. If you're a veteran, you don't pay the monthly fees, which is awesome, right? As a veteran, fun fact, this is going to apply to like almost none of you, but we're such a small group. But if you are a veteran, Chase Bank, business account, and one personal account, you do not pay any fees on that. They help veterans out. But for many of you, it can be a local bank. I prefer to have banks that are a little more established, but it doesn't matter. Separate your money. Your commission should not be going into your checking account. This goes for any 1099 income, right? Which is what we're getting. If you're a self-employed, separate your money. Separate your money, track your money. If you only have 5 expenses a month, sure. If you're like a new agent listening to this, go to Wave Accounting, WAVE Accounting. They have a free software. Once a month, you upload your bank statements, and it'll take care of your transactions for you. But if you're running a team or you're really out there crushing as an agent, the reporting is not as strong as QuickBooks. And we'll cover what I'm talking about here in a little bit. But clean separation equals clean numbers equal clarity. Separate your numbers. You want everything under its own bank account and accounting. Don't muddle your funds. Now, in any accounting software, but we're going to be talking about QuickBooks moving forward, you have what's called a chart of accounts, right? Think of it like folders for your money, okay? Income, spending, they all fall under these little folders, what we like to call in the bookkeeping world is chart of accounts, okay? Essentially, it's really simple. For income, you have commissions, you have referral fees. Now, some of you may have other side businesses that you're running through your real estate business. Totally cool. That's up to you. You can add those in too. I've run coaching when I was only doing a couple agents, right? Or obviously, hey, rev share is a huge thing in today's world. Rev share could fall under this too. Okay, so maybe if you are giving revenue share, that's a third account you have open. When you first look and set up these accounts, you're going to see a bunch of stuff in there. Some of it applies, some of it won't. You might have to delete some, clean it up. You want it cleaned up to make sense for our business. So essentially, it's, start with income, commission, referral fees, revenue share. Boom, done. That's really the only income 98% of us are going to be dealing with in this industry, and most of us, even if we have another bucket, we're probably going to separate that later on to another business, like property management, what have you. Okay. Now, expenses are where they're going to take up most of these accounting, right? So marketing/advertising, you got vehicle mileage, MLS dues, education/licensing, home office, meals, supplies, professional services, such as staging, photographers, blah, 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 accountants, right? Tax people. It doesn't really matter. Anything that you spend money on needs to have a bucket. Now, you can stay general with some of these categories, but if you're spending a lot of money on a specific thing, it could be virtual assistants, right? It could be, which, yes, they fall under professional services. Maybe you should create another bucket for that if you're spending so much, right? Because you want to know where is your money going, okay? Now, you don't want to keep it lean. You don't want thousands of categories, right? Like I said, you can generalize, but you want to have it clean enough to where you can get an idea of where your money is going, okay? But don't forget, with the right categories, you're driving your decision for deductions and what decisions you're going to make with lead gen, things like that, as we move on to step 3, which is learn the 3 sections of QuickBooks that really matter. Okay, like I said, QuickBooks runs a lot of things, right? They're also meant for businesses that run inventory, right? They have supplies, all that stuff. We're in a service business. We don't need all that, okay? So there's really 3 main sections of QuickBooks that I want you to look at, which is transactions, which is, money that it's taking from your bank accounts or credit cards or whatever. It's like, hey, here's all the stuff that your money did. Here's the money that came in. Here's the money that went out, okay? Transactions, chart of accounts, your categories, right? Your filing system for your income and expenses, right? Where does your money, what buckets do they fall into? And then reports, right? Which is where the real power is going to be. We're going to cover in a little bit, but the reports inside QuickBooks is what really sets it apart. And there's a certain way to do it as agents. It's not as simple as running through these, but we're going to cover some basic ones that are really pertaining to agents. Okay. You have profit and loss, which, look, it's the clearest picture of if you're actually making money. Okay. Now we'll tell you this, depending how many deals you're doing per year, you may not have to look at your P&L every month, right? It's commissions are a roller coaster, right? We know winters are slower, springs are stronger. At a minimum, every quarter, you should be looking at your P&L to see where money went. Now, you should be looking at your money every month at a minimum, making sure that you're reconciling accounts, which reconcile means you pull up your bank statement, you pull up QuickBooks, and they have a function under accounting in QuickBooks that says reconcile. Reconcile is kind of like a 4th area that you need to look at. I should have fixed that. So you tell me there's 4 areas, but that 4th area is like where the accounting for reconciling. You need to be reconciling once a month. Okay, we'll talk about your rhythm that you need to have down below, but you need to be checking your numbers at least once a month, even if you're doing less deals. Now, if you're doing heavy deals, it could be a lot sooner. Like if you're a big real estate team, you should be doing your P&L every single month, right? Just to see how it's doing. Now, next one's going to be balance sheet, which is a snapshot of just any assets, any liabilities. Do you have a loan, right? It's just comparing cash, your assets, and it's comparing your liabilities, okay? Cash flow, money moving in and out of your business, right? Once you have enough data, now this bucket, when you first start tracking your numbers, might be a little not very useful. Once you got like a year, 2 years, 3 years of data inside your QuickBooks account, you can start looking at your cash flow, right? Like when does it get high? When does it get low? And you can start planning in your business for your expenses for the months that on average you are going to have less income. Now, as agents, we know what time of year is usually slower. It's usually the winter in most places. But just general rule of thumb, you want to live there. You can also look up expenses by vendor, payee, which means, hey, where the heck is my money going? Like during the last 4 months, where did it go? Who did I pay money to, right? Even if you got virtual assistants, team members, like you want to know, who am I paying money to? Where is it going, right? You got to make sure you're not wasting money in a black hole, right? Like that first example I told you with that first broker I worked with, like, look, Dan told me when they first became friends and eventually business partners, like the black hole of spending that he had was crazy. He was profitable, but he was not efficient because he was just blowing money like crazy on like dinners or whatever. And it was all business purposes. It was just unnecessary business spending. Okay. Now, this is where the next thing I love to talk about is where it gets really fun. So in QuickBooks, think of it like tags, right? Like, in your CRM, you can add tags to your contacts. This one, they're called classes or a class. Okay. Now, each deal that you close, you're going to get a commission check from it, right? Specialty listings, particularly. Buyers, you could do this too. It's up to you. Generally, you're probably going to do this more for listings. But when you have a deal, you can add a class, which means where did it come from, right? What lead source did this commission come from? Now, we know in a CRM, you can be like, oh, look, I closed 10 deals from Zillow. I closed 15 deals from my YouTube channel, right? But it's not just getting the deals. Now, volume's great. I'm not telling you don't need more deals, right? Because you're making more money with more deals. What I'm getting at is sometimes, and we ran this, used to when I was on that team, we were running Google ads, and it felt like we were losing money. Well, what's funny is when you actually categorize or class your closings, even with the team members, especially if you run a team, you can also class with who's closing your deals. But when you class the lead source to the commission you're getting, so you're tagging that income, you can actually run a report and be like, oh crap, look at that. Like we actually found we were like the team was actually breaking even, right? What's funny is like, so they were good men. So even though the team was breaking even, like they were barely profiting, right? Like it was enough to where you would look at that and go, we need to stop spending money on that. But they were profiting every month or at least every quarter on their Google spend. So they actually kept running the ads because they had a team. Their agents were profiting, right? But using classes inside QuickBooks, that's how you can get very detailed with where your money is coming from. But not only where it's coming from, how much are you getting per year from that source, right? Like, is it profiting compared to the expenses you're paying for it? Okay, so that's what classes do in QuickBooks. I love it. Okay, but don't ignore reporting, right? Like that is one of the strongest tools. If you are accurately tracking everything else in your business, that is one of the things you're going to live in every single week, month, quarter, and year. Okay, now we kind of deep dived into the ROI, the classes. Okay, like how to figure out I can't emphasize that enough. That is where you're really going to figure out where your money is coming from and how it's doing. Okay, especially if you run a team, right? Like you really need to know your numbers. Like if you start a new lead source, is it like, even though I love YouTube, right? It's worked really well for our businesses, our team, when it comes to generating leads. Guess what? Some people, they don't want to do their own editing, or they don't have someone that can edit. And they pay these coaches, these gurus out there to do the editing for them. Well, guess what? YouTube could take 12 months to start turning out deals. It's not, you know what I mean? Like it's a chore. Any social media marketing is. And guess what? Some of them were losing money paying these crazy teams and coaches all this money to edit their videos, right? So that's why you really need to track with classes inside QuickBooks, because you got to know. Right? Like if you're only getting so many leads, like it's not just leads. It's like, all right, like when you do run your reports, is it throwing it in your face that, hey, man, like you're wasting money on this lead source? And it might not be the lead source. It might be because you're paying for coaching or like extra services. Like, I don't know. There's just so many ways so many people in our industry that just want to take money from us. Right? And most of us are just trying to get more money in our own dang pockets. All right. So what numbers really matter inside this business, okay? You got everything tagged, you're bookkeeping it properly, you're running your reports. Like, all right, Cameron, what really matters? Obviously, net profit. Like, how much money are you actually keeping, okay? And I'm not talking about what you're paying yourself, okay? This is before you pay yourself. Actually, even if you pay yourself, actually, fun fact, if you are, this does matter, but if you are running, especially if you're at S Corp and you're running payroll, that's an expense for your business. Right? Like if you're like, oh, my business made 40 grand, but you took all of it. Guess what, man? Your business made $0. Obviously the IRS doesn't look at it like that. You freaking made money. But that's a reality, right? Like if you have no cash in your business, did it really make money? I don't think so. You can't just take everything from your business. You have to have something in there, either reserves or you're trying to grow it with more money or have enough, for expenses. Now, what is the rhythm you should be having as a CFO inside your business? It doesn't matter if you're a single agent or you're running a team, okay? So every week, you should be categorizing transactions and applying classes to them, Okay. Now, classes, you can add what classes are going to be in your QuickBooks, which depends on what lead source you're running, or maybe if you have a specific listing that you want to tie expenses to. Okay. But categorizing transactions every single week. Now, if you're using QuickBooks, you're paying for it, it should automatically be coming in. So all you have to do is go through the list, be like, this is for that, that's for that, right? Also, side note, IRS recommendation, any spending over $75, you should be connecting a receipt to it. You can upload receipts to QuickBooks. QuickBooks even will give you an email that you can just email receipts to, and it'll try and auto categorize. If it can't, it'll just sit in the account and you just tag it to your expense. But anything over $75, you want to keep your receipts for, right? It's not a matter. Look, everyone says like, oh, ways to avoid auditing. Look, if you're doing everything right, who cares if you're getting audited? Auditing's annoying. You don't want to be doing things illegal or shady. But if you do your paperwork right, you will be okay. All right? I've made this mistake. I promise you, you want to make sure you're doing your numbers right. Keep your receipts, track everything properly. All right? So every single week, you're categorizing those transactions, applying classes, also known as tags, but they call them classes because they're fancy. Now, every single month, right, you're running a profit and loss, you're checking your ROI. Now, if you're not doing that many deals, you might be doing this every quarter, all right, maybe every other month. It's up to you. You know your business best. If you're running a team, every single month, you should be looking at your profit and loss. And if you have enough data from years back, you should be polling, what is your cash flow report? Like, what does it look like? Like, what seasons, when are you getting the most money? Believe it or not, some people close more deals in the fall. I always end up closing a ton of deals in the fall. I don't know why. Sometimes the summer, definitely busy for listings, but I always end up picking up more buyers in the fall too. So just fun fact. Every single month you're running those. Now every quarter, what are you doing? Reviewing your lead sources, reviewing those classes, pulling reports to see where is your ROI on lead sources, those classes you made. Remember all the spending? You'll not only see the spending, you can see the income tied to those classes. What does it look like? Which lead sources are losing you money? Especially if you're trying a new one, trying those Facebook ads, trying whatever. Track your money. Is that lead source actually making you money? It's easy to look at it and be like, we're not closing any deals, obviously. But even if you're closing deals, like we were with that Google ad spend, guess what? The team was still barely breaking even. Okay? You got to check your money like that. And every single year, as you hit, like right now, we're in September. By the time October, November rolls around, you have to make sure you reconciled all your accounts, right? Every single month. When you're running that P&I, you should also be reconciling your accounts. You go to so any account that you tie to QuickBooks, your checking, credit card, you pull up the statement, you go into QuickBooks, and under the accountant tab, you'll have reconcile. It's going to ask you for the ending date of the statement, and it's going to ask you for the ending balance. And then it'll let you know, hey, there's an error. Something's wrong. Something's not adding up. You have to fix that. Because if you do not have solid numbers and clean up your books by the end of the year, you can be missing on deductions. You could be paying more taxes than you're supposed to. Like, look, you have to be cleaning up your books before tax time. It's not as simple as getting your 1099 from your broker, or if you are the broker, handing out 1099s. You know what I mean? But it's not just as simple as printing out a P&L at tax time and your 1099 and say, here you go, tax person, do my taxes. Okay? Because a real savvy person, especially someone who understands our business, is going to be like, have you cleaned your books? Did you tag everything properly? Like, have you added receipts? Like, are we ready to go? Like, what is your plan? Like, what deductions can we take? Like, you have to be tracking everything. Everything. You have to be. Also, fun fact, QuickBooks, I think, has a tool. It wasn't always working that well. It's not my favorite tool just because it was clunky. But I used to be able to pull up the QuickBooks app, and it would actually track your driving and track your mileage for you. I don't know. I'm not sure if it still does that. I'll have to look into that. I haven't used it in a while because I've been referring out more buyers and just taking the listings. But it's definitely a tool that I used to have. But I'm telling you, QuickBooks is super powerful. All right. So I'm just going to close this out. Final thoughts. Your numbers are a matter in your business. Many agents that I have met are 10 times better than me, but they don't track their numbers. Final story too. I'll never forget the first business I had out of the Marine Corps was being a mobile notary. Okay, working with escrow officers, title, lawyers, and just notarizing, driving around San Diego County, notarizing documents. I remember I did an adjustment to a mortgage because this husband and wife, real estate, they're both real estate agents, they were having to modify their loan because they couldn't make payments. And when I asked, I didn't ask them like, oh, what's going on with their personal life? They just talked to me about it. And they just overspend. They overspent their bounds, and they didn't manage their money properly in their business. That's what he told me. So agents naturally are just, I think many of us mean well. We run businesses. The problem is everyone wants to take money from you. Every brokerage just wants you to join so they can get more deals. But no one actually teaches you how to run an actual CFO rhythm in your business, right? That's why I'm here. That's why you listen to this podcast. That's why you can reach out to me at superdadtax.com. That's why we do this for agents. Because even though I'm still in the business, I'm still working it, I made sure I wanted to create something to actually help agents after the commission. Like, what are the strategies? Like retirement, right? Like, I don't want to be selling homes my whole freaking life. Do you? I don't. And that's why I have realized, like, I made $106,000. Like I said, I share this almost every podcast, but like first year I made that, and I just lost it to taxes. And I had almost nothing left for my family. And I didn't even waste it on a car or anything stupid. It literally just went to like, oh, I'm going to do this new business thing, or I'm going to do this. Well, if I actually managed my money properly and actually tracked everything, I would have known that, hey, I can't spend this right now. I must wait until I have enough cash reserves, given my cash flow over the last couple of years. Ridiculous. Like, you have to track it. You have to do it. If this seems like, Cameron, this is just too much for me, I'm too busy closing deals, I don't have time for this, you can head over to superdadtax.com. Look, I got packages. Even our bookkeeping packages include tax work. So if you're an agent out there, you're looking to get bookkeeping done, you're looking for someone to actually be the CFO for your business, to give you financial insight on what's going on day in and day out every single month or quarter, depending on the package you choose, look, you head over to superdadtax.com. We'll hook you up. And the great part is I'm even including one tax return or one business return or both, depending on what package you choose. Okay, so it's including your tax work, because I know that if me and my team are doing the books for the entire year, we're giving you insights, we're making sure everything's done properly, we already know what we're going to do come tax time. In fact, for all of our monthly clients, for most packages, we're also going to be doing a tax advising session for at least an hour, maybe more, depending on how complicated your situation is. But every single fall, if we're sitting down, we're going like, here's your expected tax, and then here's what you're probably going to pay in taxes. What strategies are we going to use? There's still some time left between now and the end of the year. Did you fund your retirement plans? Did you do this? Did you do that? Any chance we have to maximize tax savings, we are going to advise you to take. On top of that, we're also going to look at, all right, here's how this year went. What does next year look like? How do we prepare for you as your CFO team for your business on the financial backside? Okay? So you can head over to the website, check it out. Don't forget, guys, I also run a weekly email newsletter. It's on the same topic every single week. This podcast is raw. I don't really edit it. I don't know if I plan on editing it. It's just a complimentary thing to the newsletter. So down the show notes, you're always going to see the newsletter. Again, I host it on Substack. You can always head over to thecommissionkeeper.com. Again, that's thecommissionkeeper.com. That's where you see the website. Podcast host is there. You should be able to message me through there. Also, if you have any other questions, guys, you can always hit me up at info@superdadtax.com. I'll reach back out, answer all your questions. If there's a topic you want to know more on, you can send me an email there. Let me know what topic you want. But without a doubt, I know all of you are out there crushing it as agents. I know rates are still making things tough. It's still really hard to try and get a lot of deals in the industry these last few years. It doesn't look like it's getting better yet. Hopefully next year will be better. But for now, hey, manage your money, keep hustling, and have a good one. I'll see you next week.